may or may not be relevant
is brand awareness. So one, if the customer doesn't know you exist, how can they buy from you? So it's
Patric. You're listening.
And I muted you. Too much. I'm trying to do it at the beginning. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Marketing Mondays.
Yeah, there we go.
I didn't mute you. You're live. You're unmuted. This is Marketing Mondays 95.
95. We're almost to 100.
Yes.
Closing in on it.
Yes. And as you can see, I'm not in my usual set. I'm here live in the outside the convention center, or inside the convention center, outside the expo hall at South by Southwest here in Austin, Texas. I got in here Saturday night and I leave tomorrow, but it has been a blast down here. I definitely recommend it if somebody has been thinking about it. It's been on my bucket list for a long time and I had to check it off. So, and I'm so glad I did.
No, that's awesome. I mean, it's great that, you're down there learning from a lot of the top minds in the space and things like that. And I just got back from the Autobahn conference last week, and I think it's great for everything we're doing, obviously at iMagnet, to be gleaning information from as many people as we can. So I'm a little bit jealous because I'm in my normal office setting. Ronnie's down at South by Southwest. I wish I was down at South by Southwest, but we're going to talk about some of the things that he is learning down there, some of the conversations he had. I mean, South by Southwest, if you're not familiar with it, it's probably in the marketing and entertainment space, one of the cutting edge conferences in the country as far as people coming together and from all aspects of the industry, both marketing, entertainment, art, kind of everything. And we're fortunate that Ronnie's down there this week again. And I'm interested to hear some of the things that he's learning. We kind of riff on some of that today. So we hope that you guys enjoy this episode, because we're kind of hopefully going to give you a little bit of a sneak peek of what's going on at South by Southwest without you being able to be there, or without me being able to be there too. So.
Yeah, it's the biggest music festival, I believe. And there's lots of things. Every time I go onto the app and kind of look at different things, I didn't realize as many stand-up comics that were here. I've been seeing stars in the hallways and stuff. There's been so many cool meetups, and it's, to me, there, if you have an interest in anything that's related somewhat to music, TV, marketing, like, it's hard not to find something that you would be interested in. And it's similar to VCon. I mentioned this to you earlier, where like VCon was very condensed, and I like that because I felt like I could get to things, and there was lots of different spaces, and it was all really enclosed and close to get to. This has been much more spread out, which is not bad, because you see much more of the city. Obviously, we were in Indianapolis, and I'm not going to bag on Indianapolis, but it's definitely not Austin. But it's been nice kind of getting out and doing different things. There's the vibe here has been unbelievable. Everybody's been so nice, and it has like a very international feel too. Like, you walk a few steps and you'll hear a new language. So there's people from all over the world in the expo. They had like the Tokyo Broadcast Center. They have a whole Korea metaverse set up, and that's just like two little teeny pieces. And so there's so much and so many different ideas from so many different minds of marketing and AI and all kinds of stuff. So it's definitely been inspiring to kind of talk with people that are in the space and learn different things that I don't know about. So yeah, like I said, it's been a blast down here.
Well, I think that, it's kind of what I said earlier. A lot of time, I mean, I think South by Southwest, really started, and it was much more like digital marketing and things like that oriented, and it sort of just blossomed into a lot of different things. The entertainment, like you said, the comics, the movie premieres, the musicians, everything like that, to where just all kinds of art, all kinds of entertainment are available. But I think the one common thread is that a lot of those artists, whether it's a new movie premiere, whether it's a new music, whether it's a comic, whether it's marketers and agencies working to help businesses, the common thread is you've got to get in front of people. You've got to understand the way to get your content in front of people. And I think the reason South by Southwest has blossomed is because the traditional channels to get in front of people, a lot of that just isn't there anymore. You have to be able to sort of navigate that, get in front of people. And, a lot of these people, the way they can, as opposed to going through traditional channels, is to utilize social media and things like that to get in front of people.
Yeah.
I just got a warning on the thing. Are we having an issue?
Yeah, there's an issue with Facebook, so I'll try to work through it, but there's not much I can do right now.
We're still recording though, so we can always.
Oh yeah, we're recording.
Later.
This will be on YouTube, and yeah, we just lost the followers on there, so we'll deal with that. Either way, this is content for everybody, so we're live. But no, like you were saying, I think that has definitely been kind of the thought process for me this week, has been kind of breaking out of your shell. Like you're saying, it's sometimes it's hard, and I had a conversation with a couple people outside earlier today, and trying to establish yourself, whether it's like we've talked about before, whether putting out your personal brand and understanding, like if you're a business or an artist, let's just say, there's people that are doing very similar things to you. Like there's other marketing businesses that are out there, but the key that people will want to work with you is because they have a vibe with you. And so an understanding, and that's the only way that people are really going to differentiate themselves from others, is because they're having a connection with that person, or you like their story, or you just like how they present the information and make it easy to kind of digest. So and for a lot of people that's hard, whether it's to get on camera like we're doing now. I think this is a fear for a lot of people, and even if it's, and like I mentioned, there's lots of ways to do non-facing content to kind of explain different things, and so it's just figuring out what works best for you. But yeah, it's I think understanding and realizing that you kind of have to push out and be a little bit more than what you are. And that's, at least for me, it's that I've been trying to do, is go out, shake hands, talk to people, ask questions. And I will say the one thing that's been very odd to me, like when I went up to the small agency meetup, was that because I started my business 3 years ago, I'm almost like a veteran now. Like obviously I'm not to your step, but I've gone through the process of kind of creating a business, like getting it going, and realizing in the conversation, like, okay, they're asking me these questions, and it's like, I remember, and I'm still asking questions to other people. So I think it's always, and I've talked about it a lot with other people too. It's that constant like learning, understanding. There's so much out there, especially here, of things that you just don't know. And the only way that you're going to know it is either by trying something, failing, learning from it, or coming out to these things, breaking out of your shell, talking to somebody that you wouldn't normally talk to. And so that's at least something. Obviously, that's not a marketing thing. That's just kind of a general human thing to kind of push yourself out there and try to be the best version of yourself. And so I think that's kind of an overarching theme, at least right now, that I've been trying to push myself. I was listening to like 50 Cent's book on the way down here. And so my themes this year have been connections, a hustle, and a fearlessness. And I think that fearlessness is key to kind of push yourself in the place where you might not be, but I think that's the only way that you're going to kind of grow. And whether it's grow yourself or grow your business, you kind of have to push yourself.
Well, I think that, I just was listening to a speaker this last week, and I know that a lot of people are concerned about, hey, how am I going to get out there? Or how am I going to do the content? And there's actually a lot of data right now that's been piling up to say that if the videos are too slick, if they're too polished, if they feel too, overly fine-tuned, that people are actually tuning them out. It's one of the reasons TikTok, certain videos do so well on TikTok. If you remember, several years ago, there was a TikTok and a reel from a middle-aged lady called Chewbacca Mom. Do you remember that?
That sounds familiar. Yep.
Yeah. So it was a lady in a car with like a Chewbacca mask on and just sort of having fun. That reel got 2 billion with a B views, and it is the largest, the most watched reel in all of Meta history. This was a middle-aged lady just having fun in her car with a Chewbacca mask. So to me, I think people need to get beyond that. I can't do video until I have the right equipment. she was probably shooting that on whatever the phone of choice she had at that time, maybe an iPhone 7 or whatever. But, I can't do content until I have the right video, the right lighting, the right gear setup, the right microphone. And my point is start, figure it out, whether you're shooting video facing, like doing other things so that you're not on the camera or whatever, but start doing stuff. You don't need to have super high-end equipment. And there's nothing wrong with great equipment, great camera gear, things like that. But don't fool yourself and tell yourself the lie that in order to start creating content, you need to wait until you have that camera, or you need to wait until you have that microphone, or you need to wait until you have the right lighting setup or the right set or things like that. Just get out there and start doing it. And I think, some of the stuff you're hearing from people, the exciting thing about new people coming into the business and things happening too, though, is even though, our agency, iMagnet, is almost 9 years old, the interesting thing is that in 9 years, things change so often that people that are jumping in now to doing what we're doing are not so far behind the curve. I mean, because the things that were accurate 9 years ago no longer are accurate. You know what I mean? So you have to sort of continue to learn and move forward. So you might think, well, I'm 9 years behind somebody that's been doing it for 9 years. But the reality is things have changed so much to jump in, learn. Sometimes it's actually a detriment to people that have been doing it for 9 years because they think they have it figured out and they stop trying to learn and they stop trying to be hungry about learning what's happening right now. So don't let the fact that you may have not been at the beginning or doing things a couple years ago intimidate you to get started today. There's never a bad time to jump in. The only bad thing is to not jump in, not start doing it.
Yeah, no, the beginning of your statement at least made me think of the Mark Cuban panel that I went to yesterday, where he was talking about it's everybody, at least for me, it was easy to figure out that I'm passionate for marketing. And I think a lot of people have that issue that they just don't know what, if they were to start a business or do a side hustle, they're just not sure exactly what that would be because they don't have like this specific passion. And he made the comment about do what you're already doing that you're enjoying doing, because it's something that I just saw Alex Hormozy reel the other day too. It's the clay pot analogy where a pottery class was given. Half the class was told to make one perfect pot, and the other half of the class was told to make as many pots as they possibly could. It was the more, the better. And it was easily the people that made a whole bunch of different pots had much better, higher quality ones. And so that's the only way that you're going to get better at things is by doing the things over and over that you're good at and that you're going to keep putting effort into and that you enjoy doing. And so, and
no, that's actually really interesting. I mean, because I think that, when you said that, the thing I'm thinking about is people get paralyzed with perfection. They get paralyzed with that what they have to do has to be perfect, and what that ends up doing is causing them to do nothing.
Yep.
Exactly. So freeing them up in your instance with the clay pots, freeing them up to be like, hey, it doesn't matter if it's perfect, just keep doing it. The end result is one or two of those pots they created was probably better than, like you said, the people who are trying to make the perfect pot because they were just doing it. I think sometimes you can get paralyzed with, even with the video editing you do and stuff for the channel, it's like, you can't allow yourself to, there's you certainly want something to be decent. You want something to be decent quality, but you can't paralyze yourself with being perfect or you're just going to be too slow. You're just not going to be able to get enough done.
Well, and it goes to what you said too. It's evolving. I think if I was continuing to do the same process I was doing, that's 5-6 hours of editing a week. That is a lot that pulls me away from other things I could be working on for clients. When I went online, and one of the reasons I'm here, it's finding new ways to be more efficient, to innovate. And I think if you enjoy what you're doing, you're going to get excited about something new that makes things a little bit easier. And so it's, like I said, it's tricky to figure out what that is. I got very lucky because I liked making fantasy football videos for my buddy. The Army kind of taught me how to use Photoshop. And so, I was in PsyOps. So there was this like seed that was planted and it kept growing, and I couldn't figure out exactly what this tree was going to be. and it took me a little while. And that's something that I've been trying to push people here too. It's like, if you have a passion for something, think about starting your own business. If you know that this is something that you enjoy doing and want to keep doing. And I lost my train of thought, but I think it's just making sure that you find what works. And if it's something that you like doing, you're going to find new ways and more exciting ways. Because I found an AI app that edits these up in like 5 minutes and gives me 25 clips. And so, yes, it's a little bit different than what I did, and it's not perfect, but I think it's still 85% of what I want. And so that's, for me, it's going to be good. And obviously I'm going to keep tweaking, keep working, just because you don't want to be satisfied. If you're satisfied, you'll get passed behind.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I know we've only got 15 minutes left, so I want you to hit on some of the cool things that you've learned, and then we could just sort of, I'd love to hear like maybe some of the things that really like caused you to grab your pen and write something down. I know you've shared a couple of them, but I'm sure you've got a couple things that, you know. Yeah, I always, whenever I go into a talk, I always am like, okay, if I'm here and I'm going to spend the time to be here, I'm looking for that speaker to give me one nugget. They don't have to give me 10, but give me one. Give me one thing I'm going to come out of here with.
I wish I would have been to more speaking events. For me, like obviously the Mark Cuban one, he kind of hit on a lot of the things that I was already kind of thinking on. So at least I kind of hammered home like the kind of trying different things, pushing the envelope, and whether you finish something, like, because he's had so many different businesses, and he was on the panel with Andrew McCollum, who's one of the co-founders of Facebook. And so, and he made a good point about, after you have you create by far the biggest app platform on earth, then what do? And how do you keep like that fire lit to kind of keep going or to do something new? And how do you look at it in a different way? And I think hearing that was something to think about, like, hey, this guy created Facebook along with Zuckerberg and was able to go through that process. And I think the cool thing was that for us on the outside that he mentioned, the growth of Facebook was kind of very fast for whatever year, like in 2003. So it was probably within like a year or two, this thing all of a sudden blew up, versus like we mentioned before with Threads blows up in like 4 hours. So, but back then for Facebook to kind of have that growth and the way that it spawned, like I heard about it from a girl who knew people from like the Kansas basketball team, because it was like a university thing when it first started. And so realizing, hey, he created like this new completely different platform. Like they're working on like a college streaming television service that's cheap. Wow. And so it's not completely different, but it's a different animal in itself. And so how do you reinvent yourself, I think, is one of those things too. It's not like I'm looking to reinvent myself, but obviously we talked to Matt. It's like one of the things I want to tell people, it's like you have to start being the person that you want to be now. Like I have to start coming to these events, doing different things. If I want to grow as a person or a business, I have to start thinking about who that person is and how does he act? Like, what does he do? How does he interact with people? What's his confidence level at? Like, is he able to go up and talk to strangers? And so at least having that kind of, and then that goes with the Stephen A panel that I went to, where it's kind of he's uncompromising, or he refuses to be anything but himself, I think, is the key. And to be that person, whether it's turned up or whatever, like we mentioned before, don't be fake. But I think he brought such energy, and it was funny because he was started very calm, and then he became Stephen A at the end, where he was boisterous and loud. And I think it's you can be different personalities for different, whether it's topics you're talking about, and trying to figure out but making sure that you're you. And I know we've mentioned this before about, don't put on a big show and then somebody comes and sees you and you're somebody different. Like be the person that you want to be on social, in person, like at events, and be consistent with that. Because like we mentioned at the beginning, the reason that people are going to choose you is because of how you interact with them and what you provide for them. And so figuring out exactly how that works is sometimes very tricky for a lot of people that I've talked to, that, hey, how do I put myself out there in a way that's going to be helpful to other people? How do I know how to solve problems? How do I understand what the customer's problem is if I'm not putting myself out there and asking and trying to make sure, and having those hard conversations sometimes is really tough.
Well, I think that, as far as people being true, I think, and even to your point with Stephen A, I mean, all of us have multiple layers to our personalities. So, but it is a little bit like you said. I mean, I think people do expect, like, if you're out there on social media in a certain way, that should at least be one of your normal, layers of your personality. It shouldn't be like, I'll give an example who the name will go unmentioned because I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I'd followed somebody that was really like over the top, like, type of person on social media and things like that. And when I actually met them in person, they were actually a super soft spoken and super like shy type personality. It really threw me off because it was like so dramatically different from who the public face is. And it's not to say like, but to me, I kind of feel like, I'm not saying anything about that person, but it definitely was, it took me a little bit to sort of recalibrate to the person being dramatically different than they were, online. So what I would say, you definitely need to be yourself, if you have hobbies, if you have interests, things like that, I think, don't fake it. I mean, if you're not into cars, I think there's a lane for different people. I think sometimes people like get caught in their, they get trapped in a persona they've created for themselves, and that's not really who they are. And at some point in time, that's gonna probably fall apart. So I would say, but it's interesting. I think it's interesting that the guy from Facebook, the thing I was thinking about that and trying to break it down to a lot of the people that we talk to and a lot of the businesses that we work with, I think there's a potential that when you've experienced some success, clearly he had experienced success with Facebook and grown that. But I think there is a tendency to, I don't want to say rest on your laurels, because it might not even mean that you're not still working hard, but you stop being as hungry to learn the next new thing and to try something different, because you fall into the trap of, this is kind of working and there's really no reason to change it. The old adage, if it's not broke, don't, fix it. The problem is sometimes you don't realize it's not working until it's not working.
Yeah.
Like you go down and then all of a sudden, it seems like it happens suddenly, but what's actually happened is a slow progression over a period of time to where something isn't as effective, but it's still working. And then by the time you nail down that that's not really working, it's really not working. And then you've really got to scramble to catch up. So I would say, even from the one at Facebook, the thing I took from that when you were sharing that was, man, I see that a lot when I talk to business owners, to where they attain some level of success and then not even maybe intentionally or knowingly do that. They just stop being as hungry to learn new things and to adapt and to change. And, one of there's a lot of different ways you can do that, whether you do it yourself. I mean, one of the things you could do is go to conferences like you're at South by Southwest. If you put yourself in those situations, it's going to challenge you and it's going to open up your eyes to new things. But I would encourage everybody to do something, whether it's a networking group, whether it's a conference, do something to continue to push yourself forward and to challenge the way that you're doing it, to keep yourself ahead of the curve. Because again, a lot of times what happens is you slowly start to fall behind and you don't realize it until it's
too late.
It's at a critical point, and then you're scrambling to sort of make something happen instead of just slowly being there. And it doesn't, maybe the way you're doing it is really good, but even putting yourself in those situations allows you to test what you're doing and making sure that it's verifying that what you're doing is the right thing, instead of just thinking that it's the right thing. So I even like that. Like that wasn't originally like even talking about like small businesses or something like people we deal with, but I think you can glean good knowledge from that, like what that guy was talking about.
Yeah. My other pretty big takeaway, and it's like the last when I was wandering the expo, and I had a couple conversations with some AI platforms that kind of work with different things. And I think the biggest thing that I had trouble answering, and I think a lot of people have kind of an issue or just don't even know where to start. And that was kind of one of the things that we talked about was what's the right data that I should be looking at? And I think that's a hard thing, especially because the data is going to drive the AI if you're going to use it. And that was kind of what you could set up an AI and it would connect all of your things, whether it's your Google AdWords, LinkedIn, all these different things. And it's like, but then I asked them like, well, how do I know what data I need to be focusing on and looking at? And obviously that depends on whether it's the agency or the client's needs, and that's something that should be a part of your marketing plan, is understanding like, all right, who's your target market? How are we going to do this? And that's kind of the basis. But then it's like, all right, so what KPIs, what key indicators are you going to use to help yourself grow? Whether it's, are we averaging X amount on this package? And if it's something where you're not selling something and it's taking up extra time or extra space, if you have inventory, and it's kind of understanding and kind of going through everything. But I think the only way that you're going to know that is understanding the data that you have. And I think that's what's a big struggle and a hurdle for a lot of people, is knowing, okay, what data am I using? It like, and the one that we had mentioned was like Google AdWords, and we've gone through it and probably could do like a 5-part series on Google AdWords just because of all of the little intricacies of the data that kind of comes with that and understanding it. And that's like, I even on social, understanding like the dashboard and stuff, if you have a professional account on Instagram, or knowing your TikTok stats and kind of how to understand them, or your YouTube, and knowing like, okay, I have a 15% view on this video, so why are they leaving at this point? And so
there's so much data out there. That's the thing. I mean, but I think you hit the nail on the head, that I think it's up to the business owner to decide like what are the key, indicators I need to be paying attention to, because like you said, I mean, I think there's so much data out there. I mean, just on your phone, if you've got your, Instagram business account, it'll tell you so much information in the data package. Like, what days of the week are people more active on your content? What times of the day? It could lead you to start realizing like what days and times of the week should you be posting, because your content seems to resonate. What are the age groups that your content is resonating with? What is the gender of who is responding to your content? And again, you could have content that's getting a lot of likes and things like that, and then you realize like your demo that you're targeting is 35 to 55, and you realize the content you're generating is resonating with 18 to 25-year-olds, and you're like, I'm getting a lot of likes and I'm getting a lot, but if you're hitting the wrong target, it's not, if you don't understand who you're trying to reach, and then verifying with the data that you're actually reaching the people you're trying to reach, you could actually be tricked by the actual upfront indicators like likes, comments, things like that, to think that you're actually achieving what you're trying to do. And the reality is those are vanity metrics. I call those vanity metrics. You may feel good about them, but they may not be doing anything for your business. And you need to understand, if your business is actually performing, and also, what products or services you're offering. Sometimes the products or services you're offering, we deal with a lot of people that do school security. Well, you're not pitching to millions of people. You're pitching to maybe several thousand people at most, and you only really have to convert 2 or 3 to have a massive amount of work, a couple schools, whatever that go through. So, I think you really have to understand what success looks like. What are you trying to achieve? What does success look like? And then utilize your data to determine whether you are actually achieving success or not. I think people fall into the trick of vanity metrics and thinking that tells them whether they're succeeding or not, but they could be reaching the wrong person. I mean, I really don't get too tied up with how many people like a post or like a page. what really is important are people reaching out. Are they calling? Are they filling out contact forms? Are they doing those type of things? And then again, depending on what you're selling or what product or service you're offering, you may only need to convert 1, 2, 3, 4 times to really indicate a significant amount of business. And so on the outside, if you're looking at the vanity metrics, you might be like, man, it seems like that person doesn't get a ton of engagement or this or that. But if you're getting the right type of engagement, it could be all the difference in the world.
No, absolutely. And the last thing I'll mention too, and it's something that's kind of, again, I mentioned this with you pre-show, at least for me, I've kind of had some themes that are kind of been ringing. And the one thing that I'm noticing from a lot of people is just trying to have that hustle. And as Mark Cuban said, he's like, if you're always in competition with somebody, and if that's something that makes you uncomfortable, then it might not be right for you, because he's like, because if you're in competition, he said this, not me, but like, if you're in competition with me, I'm going to crush you. And so, and it's always making sure that you're kind of working on different things. And I talked to this with somebody earlier today too. And it's, at least for me as a business owner, like I start guilting myself when I'm watching TV if I'm not doing work while I'm doing it. And I think that's kind of a thing that I'm noticing a lot of time here. Like there's so many people that are hungry to kind of, to find that purpose, to find something that kind of clicks for them, that where they feel appreciated, they're getting paid correctly.
Yeah.
And so, and it's, if you're not hustling and doing that, there's chances are you're not going to get the things that you want. So it's,
well, and if you're doing something that you're passionate about, if you're doing something that you like, the hustle, for lack of a better term, comes easily.
Yep.
If you're doing something you don't like, it feels like a lot of work. If you're doing something that you love, you'll find yourself putting in those extra hours and things like that, but it doesn't feel like work because you really enjoy doing it. So, you know, if you're really pushing yourself to do something and you really have to motivate yourself to do something, I think the primary question you have to ask yourself is that something you're passionate about? Because if you truly have passion about something, you shouldn't have to be kicking yourself in the butt to work on it. It should be something you're doing naturally. Like if you feel like you have to kick yourself in the butt, a more core question you need to ask yourself, are you doing the right thing? Are you doing something that you love? Because I mean, to succeed in any business is going to require a lot of work. And if you hate the work, it's going to be a long, miserable experience. I mean, and you're probably going to burn yourself out and not succeed anyway, because you can only put in that level of work on something you don't like for so long before you finally are just checked out on it. So the core question has to be, you know, are you doing the right thing? Are you doing something that you really enjoy doing? And then, you know, it's going to be work. I mean, anybody that tells you that owning your own business or being successful in a business doesn't require a lot of work has probably never owned or ran a successful business.
Yeah,
that's just the facts.
For sure. Well, we can kind of wrap. You mentioned it earlier. Let me give a little spin back. Let me zoom this out, kind of give people a feel. It sounds loud in my headphones here, but we've been pretty busy. There's so many people.
So what is that big building behind you? Is that the convention center or what?
Yeah, I'm in the convention center. So,
oh, you're inside. Okay, I gotcha.
I'm at the window here, and so you can probably not right here, but through that wall is the big expo center, where they have all of the booths and stuff set up, like where we were at for Window Film Conference. But yeah, it's, as I said before, if this is on your bucket list like it was for me. It's pricey to get a ticket and get in, but I think it's been so worth it. Obviously, and we've talked about stuff in the future. It's like I would like to spend so much more time here because there's so many more panels and stuff throughout the week. This started on the 8th and goes until the 16th. So it's like 9 days of constant stuff. So if you're here, like you have this badge, you can get into pretty much anything for the most part. And I guess I had I'll find out tonight because I'm going to try to get into a movie premiere. So, but yeah, there's so much. If you have an interest in music, comedy, I could go on and on. All I can think of for the moment, but like even with the marketing and just trying to find different speakers and stuff, to me, this has been a great event to check out. I'm excited to kind of find, obviously I'm not going to find something that's like this aside from maybe VCon or some other marketing conference that I'm not sure of, but yeah, this is definitely been an experience, and definitely check out Austin. Austin has been very awesome. It's been great weather here for the middle of March, coming down from Chicago. Left 40s for 60s. I'll do that any day of the
I
week.
think you missed some snow this weekend in Chicago too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think I saw something like that. So I apologize for
Well,
my
hey.
wife and my kid to have to deal with that. So
I'm looking forward for the full debrief when you get back from South by Southwest, and
Sounds
maybe
good.
some
I'm head-
swag if you happen to come across some swag.
we'll see if I find anything. But yeah, I'm tomorrow. I'm headed over to the Circuit of Americas. You know, I'm a big F1 fan, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
go karting on the F1 track over there. So that's gonna be fun. I'm doing a few races tomorrow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time while you're down there right in the middle of it. Hopefully the people that are watching found a little bit of value. If this got cut off in the Facebook feed, because I think it may have, we will make sure we post the whole video in its entirety and share that out. But I think something went wrong with Facebook in the middle of it, but I still think we have the full recording. So we'll make sure that gets dispersed out to people. But thanks for taking the time while you're there, and have a safe trip home. Enjoy the rest of your trip.
All right. Thank you. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll talk to you guys later.